Hey everybody, it's the Boss Lady here, coming to you with my Talk About It Tuesday. Took me a minute to get set up today because we had construction outside the house, and so I had to wait till they moved down the street so you guys can get that in the background noise. Um, but I have a topic of today that I believe is a little controversial. So comment below after you hear this video and tell me what you think. So I've been thinking about the youth of today and how a lot of our youth of today are very troubled. I don't know if it's their home life, their school life. I don't know if it's their sexual orientation, but youth of today are out of control. And so, I've been doing some studying and kind of watching things and hearing things in the news, even watching some stuff on YouTube, and I'm just like, what happened? Um, I know, when laws changed years ago where parents can't, spank their kids or whatever, that is a contributing factor. I honestly believe that. And so I don't know if parents took that law and said, okay, I can't do anything with my kids, so they're just totally hands off, or what it is. But the youth of today are out of control. I don't know if a lot of the kids are, like drug addicted babies or fetal alcohol babies. And so, all those chemicals in their bodies are just making their hormones crazy, and their brain cells aren't right anymore. I mean, let's be honest. A child that has no alcohol in their system, that has no drugs in their system, when they become a teenager, they still lose their minds. So if you contribute teen years along with alcohol and drugs, that makes things even worse. Is it that, drugs and alcohol are so readily available to kids these days? Because I mean, you're constantly hearing about, teens drinking and driving, or, overdosing on like synthetic drugs and stuff. So, you know, where's the disconnect? Where are the parents first and foremost? I've noticed that there are a lot of parents today that are totally hands off. It's like they had the babies and then they're done. And I'm like, really? There's no talking with the children. There's no spending time with them. I touched on last week about, folks aren't sitting at the table anymore. Everybody's on their phones, everybody's on their tablets, everybody's doing their own thing and not being a family. Is the disconnect where, a lot of families are single parent homes now, and the absent parent is totally just absent, not just absent from the home, but absent from the child's life. Is that the issue? What is the problem today with our youth, that they are so out of control, that they're so disruptive and destructive and disrespectful and disobedient? I mean, I just don't understand it. Case in point, we had some recent activity in our neighborhood, and there's a renter, I've mentioned it before, but there's a renter who she's been having these parties, and there's like youth come from everywhere. I mean, they're not on this block. My block is a quiet block. I have retirees, elders, upstanding folks who go to work and take care of their homes. So for this renter to come in and have all this youth come to the neighborhood, one thing, I don't mind youth being in the neighborhood because I have a child, but I do mind if they're disrespectful, disobedient, disruptive, and destructive. We've had some neighbors complain of things being stolen. We've had neighbors complain of things being destroyed. When do we have to, what can we do? Why do we have to deal with this? I don't understand. People are saying, oh, have compassion, they're troubled youth, and, seek out resources for them. I'm sorry, I didn't birth these babies. Now, I am a mama bear all the way around. So if a child is in need, I'm going to help them, but only if the help is warranted. These people that we were dealing with recently, very disrespectful. And when I tell you disrespectful, I'm talking about cursing the officers out with the F-bomb and everything else. So I'm like, if they're going to curse out the police, what do you think they're going to do to little old me? You know what I'm saying? So all I can do is pray for them and pray, one, that they get out of my neighborhood, and pray, two, that they get help, the help that they deserve and need, and then pray for their parents, because apparently their parents don't know which way is up either. You know, I notice in today's times in society, we are lacking villages for our youth. There is no big mama. There is no big papa. There's just mom, dad, maybe, brothers, sisters, bunch of kids, and that's it. There are no aunties and uncles and cousins and, great aunts and great uncles that can, village around these youth and help raise them up to be upstanding citizens. Now, I will tell you, I was raised that way. I have a big extended family. Not only do I have a big family on my father's side, but I have a big extended family. When I met Boss Man, he was overwhelmed with it because he just never knew who he was going to meet. And I say, oh, that's my auntie, that's my uncle, that's my cousin, because that's how I was raised. And to this day, if I saw them on the street, I'm still to address them by auntie and uncle because that's how I was raised. These days and time, if you don't have an auntie that's blood related, that's not your auntie type of deal. Kids today, they don't know how it was from back in the day where if you got in trouble at school and sister so-and-so knew about it, she was going to chastise you. Kids of today, let sister so-and-so say something now. They're going to curse her to her face and maybe even hurt her. You know what I'm saying? Because they have no respect for adults, elders, or authority. None. And I'm just trying to figure out why. What happened? The kids who do have that type of respect, they are little to none. I mean, they are a small group of children. Like Miss Peanut, she's in a class all by herself compared to some of these other kids that I see at her school, that I've witnessed when she goes to her different little programs and classes and stuff. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? And then you see the parent, and the parent is just like, well, whatever. Seriously? I mean, these are 8 and 9-year-olds. That's just them. But what I was dealing with this past weekend was like 17, 18, 19-year-olds. So you figure that's a 10-year gap pretty much, and they're all the same way. What happened? What's going on? What can we as a society do to help turn that around? Or, not so much that, why has society allowed this to happen is what I really want to know. I see the stuff that's on TV, and I think I've told you guys before, I don't have cable. I don't have cable, DirecTV, none of that stuff. I don't have the dish and all that. And the reason why is because of the things that I was noticing on the TV. The things that they are, putting out there for our youth to watch, it's crazy. Now don't get me wrong, there is some secular artists that I like, that I don't listen to when Miss Peanut is present. But I can differentiate what they're saying, how they're saying it, how they're dressing, whatever. I'm not going to subject my child to that because I don't want her to think, oh, well, that's the cool thing to do. No, it's not. When you become an adult, you can do what you want. But as a child, no, we're not going to do that. But these kids, they emulate and imitate everything that they see on TV, in these streets, and it's just horrible. And so, the media, whether it be TV, radio, whatever, and social media, is helping just change their mindsets to the point where they don't know which way is up. And it's sad. It's really sad. I do have compassion for my neighbors. My neighbors are going through a lot, as well as, us, my household as well, with this one particular house. But I have compassion for my neighbors because my neighbors are tired. They're like, all I want to do is live. I want to come home and enjoy my home, my yard. I want to be able to have a barbecue in my backyard and not worry about somebody running through my yard or hiding in my bushes or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not adults. These are youth. As far as resources for them, resources are zero to none. Any type of programs that were around in my city, they're gone. So like the youth of today, there's no jobs for them. There's no community centers for them. There's no programs where they can just be a kid. So, you figure teenagers already got hormone imbalance. And then you couple that with probably no food at home, single parent home, your mama working all day or doing other things, or daddy just doing what he want to do. So they're raising themselves, and they're trying to be cool because that's the cool thing to do, so to speak. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any people to look up to. So they look up to what they see on TV thinking that that's the cool thing, and it's not. Half those rappers and stuff, they are renting that stuff. They're not owning that stuff, but the kids don't seem to know the difference. So I don't know. I mean, right now I'm just thinking about it, and youth of today, they're a lost soul. And I say soul as one because, yeah, they're all in the same little spectrum. I do what I can for the youth that are in my life. But once they pass that threshold where it's the point of no return, it's like all I can do is pray for them. So that's my Talk About It Tuesday, guys. I had been wanting to do this topic for a while. And then, like I said, after dealing with some things I dealt with this past weekend, I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to talk about it. So please comment below. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Let's, have a good conversation. I wonder if, with the lack of villages and the changing of laws where parents can't really parent their kids, if that's part of it. But I just don't feel that's everything. I don't know. In my whole heart of hearts, I don't feel that's everything, where when the laws change, where you couldn't spank your kids, that's, it's a big part, but I don't think that's everything. I think the drugs had something to do with it. I think, alcohol has something to do with it. I think the guns being on the streets have stuff to do with it. I just don't know what to do. And I know, even in the schools back in the day, you had teachers who actually had compassion for their students. Now, not so much. Now it's just go to school and they're going to teach, get their check, and they go home, And then I've noticed even youth of today don't even have respect for their teachers, where I've been hearing a lot of stories recently where students are fighting their superiors at the school. And that blows my mind because I don't understand that. I remember when I worked in the school system, there were kids who had like behavior issues and medical issues where they would lash out. But now it's not just behavior. And I'm not saying that these kids need to be medicated. Don't get me wrong with that, because I don't believe in that either. With all these kids on the Ritalin and all that stuff, they're ADHD, they're ADD, they need to have all these pills. That's just building a society of zombies, honestly. You put all these kids on medication and then they're just kind of walking around aimlessly, So I don't believe in that either. But there's something wrong. There's some type of chemical imbalance or something. I don't know what it is. But comment below. Tell me what you guys think is, the culprit of our troubled youth of today. And let's have a great conversation. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see everybody in a new video. Bye.